Good evening, everyone, and welcome. We're going to jump right to it tonight with some breaking news out of Ukraine. New explosions can be heard in the capital city of Kyiv tonight.
This happened last night during our broadcast and quickly escalated throughout the evening. Newsmax has a crew on the ground in Kyiv. Joining us live tonight is correspondent Chuck Holton. Sarah Williamson was with us last night when this happened. What's going on right now? Do the residents of Kyiv seem scared or nervous, or do they seem ready to fight, as Zelensky told them to? What's happening on the ground?
I am standing about 16 kilometers south of Kyiv, and we are able to hear the explosions and actually see them from my window of my hotel here. At this point, anybody who can get out, that wants to get out, has. And the people who are left are people that don't have the wherewithal to leave, or people who are here to stay and fight.
So, Chuck, this feels like it's really playing out minute by minute, and it's really scary for everyone on the ground and us at home watching in America. What happens tomorrow? What do you foresee in the future?
Well, I talked to the defense attaché to the president last night, and he told me that today would be the worst day, and I think he's correct about that. This is the day that these forces coming in from the east and from the north are trying to take the city of Kyiv.
So it's going to be a pitched struggle, that's for sure.
So, General, it certainly does seem that the Russians have the upper hand, but even if Kyiv is taken, do you think the war ends there, or the Ukrainians will keep their fighting spirit?
I think that's a great question, Erin. I think that the what we saw, for example, in Iraq was a very quick shock and awe penetration to Baghdad, and then we settled into a long war filled with IEDs and sabotage and insurgents. And so I think there's a parallel here. There's a very proud people with a good leader that's standing up and taking the same risks. There's a war raging in Europe.
I look forward to hearing what he says on Tuesday at the State of the Union. It's going to be interesting.
Absolutely. And we have the appearance of an absentee president and a mainstream media that's completely complicit. However, the Russians are out in droves pleading to end the war. And across the vast country, near 2,000 people have already been arrested for speaking out. And now Russian tennis player Andrei Rublev wrote, "No war, please," after he advanced to the finals in a tournament in Dubai. What will happen to these Russian dissenters, and why is Putin going, against the will of his people?
Yeah, no, I saw that, Erin, and I think that's very interesting. Putin's an old KGB spy and old statist that wants to reimpose, carve out his own niche in history, where he built out the Soviet Union, former Soviet Union, and tried to reclaim some of that.
Well, Russian forces, they may be surrounding Kyiv, but an unlikely voice might urge Putin to apply the brakes.
Coming up, Gordon Chang joins us on what game plan China will be taking as the world watches Ukraine fight for its future.
News tonight, Russia has launched an attack against Ukraine's capital city. Several explosions have been heard. Ukraine's president says he is staying in the city, vowing his forces will stand their ground.
Russian President Vladimir Putin and China's Xi Jinping spoke today and discussed a possible endgame for all parties. According to readouts of the call, Putin stressed to Xi why he believed incursion was necessary. And for now, it seems China is buying what Russia is selling.
Chinese state media reported that during the call, President Xi urged Putin to open negotiations with Ukraine to end the conflict, but also refused to acknowledge that Putin and Russia are the clear aggressors in this war.
How close relations are between Moscow and Beijing.
Right, Gordon, at yesterday's press conference, President Biden seemed uncomfortable, at least, when asked about China's role in stopping Putin. Take a listen here.
Are you urging China to help isolate Russia?
I'm not prepared to comment on that at the moment.
So he wasn't prepared to comment on that, well, for months. The United States reached out to China with intel reports suggesting a Russian invasion. China, in turn, rebuffed the United States and gave these reports to Russia. When will this administration learn that China simply can't be trusted?
I think the correct answer to that question, Erin, is never. If they haven't learned by now of China's intentions, of where China stands with regard to Russia and where China stands with regard to other things, they're never going to learn. The bigger issues, the one that's going to affect us far more than the southern border or other immediate ones, are really the ones that are being raised by Putin and Xi Jinping.
Gordon Chang, you have long exposed the evils of Russia and China. Hopefully the mainstream media and our president will start listening. Thank you for your perspective and for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much, Erin and Jen.
Breaking tonight, the battle for Kyiv is on. Several explosions have been heard in the capital city. Ukraine's state agency for special communications claims another Russian plane has been downed, capable of carrying 150 paratroopers.
And with President Biden in charge, every state has sadly become a border state. More than 100,000 Americans died from an overdose in 2021, and the majority of those drugs have come straight from Mexico.
That's right. Those drugs ended up in places like Vermont, where opioid deaths skyrocketed in 2021, and Colorado, where police seized more than 5 times the amount of fentanyl in 2021 compared to 2020.
The Mexican National Guard, yet Mexico does nothing about it. And as Texas Land Commissioner, I will address it with Mexico from the state of Texas level.
And Mark, a lot of the new drug traffickers are turning out to be young adults who are difficult to prosecute. I want to get your reaction to these comments from Border Patrol Chief Raul Ortiz. He says that he's trying to assess the problem. Take a listen.
Not only are you going to get prosecuted for smuggling, but we're going to try and have enhancement charges so that way we make sure and ensure that that doesn't continue.
Ortiz says he's working with both the state and federal government to make prosecution harder and make adjustments to policy.
So he says he's telling the federal government to fix this mess. Should he be more outspoken? What else can he do and other law enforcement officials just like him to try to fix this terrible, dangerous, deadly problem?
Well, one, he should be more outspoken, but he should not be a puppet for this administration and this secretary, which he has been. And he's shown that again and again. Look, I get it. Prosecution, that's all well. That's one element of a consequence delivery system. But here's what's the most important thing. It's called prevention. Let's stop building it.
Yeah, those walls work when it's Inauguration Day or when it's the State of the Union right here in Washington. It's funny how that works.
Or if you're Nancy Pelosi's mansion. But Victor, we spoke about drugs pouring into our country earlier, and the World Trade Bridge in Laredo plays a huge part of this for drug traffickers. But officials are testing a pilot program at the bridge. It's called the Multi-Energy Portal. It involves dozens of computerized scanning devices and CBP personnel who analyze the data to locate and confiscate illegal goods. Hopefully, this will make a difference. What are your thoughts?
Well, listen, I'm all for the technology. I'm all for all the tools, the wall, every single thing that can help our men and women of Border Patrol. And I stand by them and I support them. But what I see and what I could tell you from my career, when the seizures go up, it's not a good thing. It's actually the opposite. When you see the takedowns of human smugglers, the seizing of all these fentanyl pills and methamphetamine.
Yep. Asylum time under Biden. Mark Morgan and Victor Avila, we so greatly appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. And the border is just one part of Biden's laundry list of failures.
That's right. So today he reverted back to what Democrats always do when their backs are against the wall. Wokeism and identity politics. Distractions. Bruce Lavelle is here with his take on Biden's pick for SCOTUS. Next. Tonight, fighting has broken out near a thermal power plant north of Ukraine's capital city.
Needless to say, the optics of Ukraine are terrible for Biden. So, of course, he tried to score a win by announcing the nomination of a black woman to the Supreme Court today, as promised.
Yeah, great timing on that. The nomination of Ketanji Brown Jackson has also coincidentally come right before his State of the Union next week, where he is sure to tout his administration's so-called historic inclusivity. Sure, Kamala is the worst VP ever. Women's sports are being overrun by men. Our military is as weak as ever. But hey,
Jen, so it's kind of sad because I wouldn't want to be like, oh, well, Bruce, you're here right because of who you are and your color. So yeah,
it's absolutely identity politics. Yeah, yep. It's completely identity politics. And what about Indian women or Jewish women? Yep. The list goes on. And obviously, this is hypocrisy and attempt at revisionist history. And I can remember a little bit of history when Biden filibustered Bush's nominee, a black woman by the name of Janice Rogers Brown, for the D.C. Circuit Court in 2003, and then again voted against her nomination in 2005. And then one more time, when there was an opening for the Supreme Court, came about after O'Connor stepped down. She was on Bush's short list to be nominated. And guess what Biden said? He was going to filibuster her. So he only likes African-American women when it's convenient for him. Let's take a listen.
I can assure you that would be a very, very, very difficult fight, and she probably would be filibustering.
What about Janice Rogers Brown? Someone else?
Excuse me, I'm not. By the way, I misspoke. Janice Rogers Brown is what I meant to say.
Wow, that's completely unbelievable. So Bush ultimately didn't choose her. He chose Justice Alito, who's a great conservative justice, by the way. But what's your reaction to all of this?
Well, he's desperate. You see his polls are failing, and they were failing, and he saw his presidential campaign was grim anyway. If I was Judge Jackson, I would tell Joy to go sit down, because that is not a good reference. That's what I would say real quick based on Joy Reid. So I'll just leave it right there at the front doorstep.
Well, Bruce, I like when you said, like, tucky ducky, right? Have a tucky ducky weekend. We thank you for your always honest and truthful and fun perspective. Thank you very much, and have a great weekend.
All right, happy Friday. Thank y'all.
He is speaking at CPAC tomorrow, and a lot of folks are going to be tuning in for that.
So exciting. And there are plenty of topics for 45 to tee off. He's got Russia and Ukraine, the border, and don't forget about Hillary Clinton spying. That's next on Prime News.
Russian troops have attacked an army base in the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv.
Thoughts and prayers with everyone in Ukraine. But folks, make sure you're watching Newsmax tomorrow for President Trump's speech at CPAC in Orlando, Florida. Newsmax will air Trump's speech in its entirety with coverage starting at 5 p.m. Eastern, with the former president expected to take the stage at 7 p.m. Trust me, you won't want to miss it.
Oh, that's right. Many are expecting 45 to address the Ukraine-Russia war, of course.
That's for covering it. But I don't think the media is going to be able to continue to black this out should there be another indictment, which I predict will happen very soon.
Right. And one name we don't hear enough is John Durham. And recently he said that he has evidence including privacy issues, disclosure of witnesses, safety of individuals, law enforcement, and national security concerns. And that's all just against Clinton lawyer Michael Sussman. How important is his work right now?
Well, let's look at the big picture here. There was never a peaceful transition of power from the Obama administration to the Trump administration. And
thanks so much for being with us tonight. Good to see you.
Thank you. You too, guys.
Thank you, George. Now, hopefully the left's Russia hoax act has come to an end.
Even the CDC has had enough of the political theater, so we might not have to play dress up with our beautiful faces anymore. You won't believe the latest development at the Centers for Disease and Confusion. That's next. News, Ukraine says there is a fierce battle underway south of Kyiv at an airfield. They claim to have shot down a Russian plane carrying paratroopers. Rob Schmidt's coverage this evening from 10 to midnight with live reports on the ground from Kyiv. 70% of the country being able to take off their masks. Not that we really even listen to them anyway, but great news nonetheless.
Of course, we went from Fauci telling us to wear no mask to 1 mask to 2 masks and even goggles. And now out of nowhere, the masks are off. A coincidence? Doubtful.
Yeah, well, you know what? This is good news for you, Erin, I guess, because when you come to D.C. now, you won't have to worry about it as much. But lucky you live in the Sunshine State, the Freedom State, as I like to call it, in Florida, the state of Ron DeSantis and all things great. So luckily, you don't have to wear masks anywhere there, do you?
Definitely not. Not tomorrow. I'll go to visit President Trump either. Or CPAC.
Well, folks, that's going to do it for us. We'll see you back here Monday night at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. Rob Schmidt tonight starts right now.